Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we are back for another fun adventure in the world of joinery. If you are watching this live, then go ahead and post any questions you have down below. My wife will be moderating the chat, so you can say hi to her right down there. And we're going to be having a little bit of fun today doing a, what are we doing? We're doing a half-blind dovetail. Wow. What are we doing? Just got back from the gym, so my brain's a little like, waha. Yeah. My brain's a little, my wife's brain's a little like, yeah. Don't talk to me right now.
I did it.
So yes, we're going to be doing that. But a couple quick announcements. It looks like there is a chance that I will be going to the Peach Meet. And this is the biggest hand tool sale meet in the South. It's hosted by the Midwest Tool Collectors. Well, it's also partially hosted by the the Southern Hand Tool Collectors Convention or something like that. But if you go to MidwestToolCollectorsAssociation.org, mwtca.org, I left a link to it down in the description below. That will be, let's see, February 1st and 2nd, I believe. And
That's your mother-in-law's birthday?
I know. How dare I leave the house on my mother-in-law's birthday? But there's looking like a good chance I'm going to be there for that. And then in May, I'm going to be flying out to the UK with my wife. And the two of us will be going to Makers Central. So if any of you are in Europe, UK, and planning on going there or flying over from some other place, I'm looking forward to meeting you there. So we might do a meetup in the UK. Let me know if you have any ideas on that. We're still trying to figure out what all we want to do, because we're probably going to go a little early and go a little late and then be there for Makers Central. So enough with the announcements. If you are watching this and it is not live, you're watching it recorded, you'll find down in the description a whole list of all the questions that were asked in the live video. And so you can go to those, and there's a timestamp at the beginning of each one, and you can jump to around the right place where that question is being answered. So if you want to see those, go to that. But for right now, we're going to be jumping into a half-blind dovetail. So what in the world is a half-blind dovetail? Well, it's a dovetail that only has one eye. A full-blind dovetail is my wife. I can't believe I just said that.
You already know the price of those things.
Here, let me zoom in here a little bit and show you. Wow, that's out of focus.
Yeah.
There we go. This is a half-blind dovetail. So from the front, you don't see any dovetail at all. And then from the side, you see the dovetail. And you can see there's a piece of almost like a veneer on the front that is protecting the dovetail. This is really common on the fronts of drawers. So when you look at the drawer, you don't see the dovetail, but it still gives it the strength of the dovetail in the back. It looks like it's very complicated, and it's not that complicated. It's just there's some easy places where things can really mess up on this, and you can cause yourself a lot of problem. So today we're going to be looking at doing a simple one-tail half-blind dovetail. And once you understand the method of this, everything else seems to come into play. So we're going to be doing this in walnut. Why walnut? Because I have walnut on stock. Most of the time when you're doing a half-blind dovetail, the traditional way is the front face of the drawer. Actually... Oh. Ooh!
They're trying to get the icicle lights. I said,
there you go. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, I have different things that turn on at different price values. So
they work. I didn't even know if that would happen.
Yes, it's Christmas time. I figured I'd throw up some of those. So thank you, Alan. What was I talking about? Oh, yes, drawers. Usually the front face of the drawer is made out of your really nice wood, your walnut, your cherry, your oak, whatever you're going to be actually making the dresser out of. And then the side panels and the back panel of the drawer are made with something much cheaper, often poplar. Poplar is a very easy wood to work with, sometimes pine, sometimes other simple things, but whatever you have on hand. So those are the most common things you're going to be finding with a drawer. Usually one is one wood, and the back or side panels are a different wood. So the half blinds are very common to have on the front, and then on the back of the drawer, then you have just regular through dovetails because they're a little faster and a little easier. So for this, we're just going to be using walnut.
Is there any way to get a little bit more focus, or is it just me that you seem a little fuzzy?
I normally seem fuzzy to you, don't I? Let me take a look at it. Flip this over while I'm thinking about that. And
it just seems a hair out of focus.
Let's try this. I have to focus on the front of the bench. There, that's fully focused. So we're going to start by creating a tail in this board here. Flip me back over to 2. And here, now if you've watched my channel at all, I don't go into great detail about making the tails exactly what they need to be. I like them being at a slightly different angle from each other. I like them being a little bit organic. So what I'm often going to do is I'm going to grab my marking knife, which I put away, my square, and I'm going to put a mark here. I want my tail to start about there. I don't care what that is. And then I'm going to make a mark that looks like a little over a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to come over here to a little over a 1/2 inch, something around there. That looks about right. Put that in there and make a mark across the top. This mark on the top is what keeps the saw in line. It's like, I am sorry for that. I just sneezed right into the microphone. That line then gives you the visual cue so that the saw is not out this way. The next thing we need to know is how deep to cut. And normally, you make the depth of the cut the same as the thickness of the other board. So you would just take your marking gauge and set it up to whatever your thickness is of the board. But what we want this depth to be is the thickness of the board minus the thickness of the veneer we want on this. So here's the piece I did earlier. We have the thickness of the board minus this thickness of veneer. And so I've set up this marking gauge. So if I put the marking wheel on there, it actually will create a line on here so we have a little bit of the veneer. Let me see if you can see that. Move that around. Little screen. Oh yeah, I think you can see that. There we go. So you'll see this is the thickness of that. What is that? About an 1/8 inch. I don't really want to make it much thinner than an 1/8 inch because if you make it much thinner than an 1/8 inch, there's a good chance you're going to break it off. It doesn't need to be much thicker than that, but the thicker you can make it, the stronger the veneer will be, but the weaker the tails will be. So usually about an 1/8 inch to a 3/4 inch board is about right. So now that I have dropped my knife on the floor, I can set this on here and mark my depth of cut. And since I'm just doing the one tail, I don't need any line in the middle, so there's no reason to go all the way across. I do want this line to go around the end. And over here. Any questions so far?
Yes, Nathaniel Stuver wants to know if you are going to have the strops back in stock.
Yes, I don't know when. I ordered enough stock for it. I thought I had enough stock for a month or more, but they literally sold out in under an hour of posting it online. And to which I'm really sorry. I was blown away at the demand for them. So I've ordered enough to do, I think it's 3 times however much I had before, and I'll make that batch. And it's getting to the point where if sales continue like that, I don't want to be spending so much time making strops. So I'm probably going to do like a limited batch once a month. So if you are really wanting one, get on my email list and I'll be sending it out to that, or on the Wood by Wright Hive Mind group on Facebook. I'll probably give them a notification that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be putting them out, so be ready for the email. So once they go live, I'm hoping this next batch will last longer. I'm hoping like a week or 2, but who knows, it might sell out in an hour or 2.
Are you considering pre-orders?
I have thought about that, but the system that I have to sell them, it doesn't work quite right for that. We'll see what happens with this next batch. If the next batch lasts longer, then great, then I'll have enough on hand and I can just make them as I make them. But if they sell out very quickly, then I may end up figuring out some sort of batch pre-order. Because I don't want to be spending all my time making strops. Though I do like them, I like being able to sell them. So, yes, more will be coming. I'm guessing around the first of the year. We'll see. Okay, back to this. 2. So, we're ready to cut our tails. And for these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch the back of the board here. And that pinching of the board allows the saw to then slide along the nail. I start on the back side here, just get a little nick in, and then I'm going to lower my heel down as I cut across. Now I have a saw kerf there that will hold the saw in place. I know I'm 90 degrees to the board. And now I'm going to tip the saw at the angle I want that dovetail to be. Something around that. What is that angle? I have no idea. It is this angle. And I'm going to go down to that depth stop mark on the front and on the back. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Just nick it. The dovetail saw is getting a little dull. I don't think I've sharpened it in like 9 months. So, yeah. Next thing we need to do is cut in here. This is going to be basically the exact same thing. I'm just going to turn it sideways, but this time rather than cutting an angle, we're cutting straight down. Pinching the board again, pushing the saw side to side so that I can guide the saw a little better. Uh-oh, my wife's chortling. Better than yodeling.
Hey! My grandma can yodel. I can do a fair.
Down the front. Down the back. And then I'm going to come in with a chisel and clean this out a little bit. Just get rid of any of these. Let me show you this a little bit better. See if I can get over here. There we go. So with this I can come in and just clean these out just a little bit. Just want to take it nice and tight in that corner. Now the next thing I want to do, I didn't check this ahead of time, I want to make sure that I'm good and square here, all the way across. Square there, I need to take a little bit out here. Right there, just that tiny bit. That's all we need. And then we can turn this over and do the same thing on the other side. Straightforward. Any questions before?
No, but Nathaniel's a very smart man and says, "Careful there, James. She's in charge of the chat." Yeah, there's a few.
Yes. There's a lot that goes on around behind my back on that thing.
There were a few questions. Oh, Alan Smith asked, is this for a particular project or just for...
Just for demonstration's sake.
Demonstration.
I rarely do half-blind dovetails because I like showing off the dovetails. So that's why a lot of my drawers actually have them showing on the front. What I do is show tails. So I actually reverse the dovetails so that they're no longer in mechanical strength, which really does not decrease their strength that much. I know it really surprises and drives people crazy, but I like it that way. It looks good. At least I think it looks good. But you can do dovetails whatever way you want. No, this is actually the same board that I used to do the inlaid dovetails last time. So it's turning into a good test board. Just going to do the same thing, trimming it out.
They say you can sell your horse butt straps seasonally, like all these chisels.
Yes.
And then a slightly off-topic question, if you're ready for it.
Sure.
The Veneer Coker, he just got a shoulder plane, and so he wants to know how yours is stored, so he can have ideas for his storage.
Mine's stored up here. It's just sitting on a shelf.
Very fancy.
I don't make special storage boxes for tools because they're tools and I want them quick and accessible. I would rather have a tool that might get broken due to being in a delicate situation, but still be easy and functional than a tool that takes longer to get to because it's in a box that I have to unpack. So yeah, I have this shelf up here with all my molding planes. It also has my shoulder planes and then my Stanley 45 and 55. They just sit open on a shelf. But I know that's not for everyone, but that's for me. And I am a very different person. Just ask my wife. Better yet, just don't ask her. That might get dangerous.
Why is the computer?
So the next thing we want to do is create the pins. Or in this case, the pin has the pin on either end and a bit of veneer that goes around the side. And this is where things get a little confusing. How do you actually make that happen? So let's actually take a look at that. I'm going to put this down in here. And I'm going to grab a block plane. Show you what I'm going to do with that. I like to use a block plane to get this camera back in focus. There we go. I'll set the block plane up at the same height as my board so that I can transfer the lines a little bit better to it. Why a block plane? Because I just always have one in stock. I'm going to slide this back a little ways, and that way the block plane is the same height as the board, so that I can put this on here, and I'm going to line it up with this corner here and eyeball down this to make sure it's right where it needs to be. And then I'll eyeball this corner over here. Get everything right into place. Lock it down. I'm going to use the marking knife to mark off this pin. And this pin. So now we have where our pins are. We don't have the thickness of the veneer, and we don't have the depth of the cut. So I'm going to turn this around. And now let's add in the thickness of the veneer. And in this case, what we want this to be is the exact same mark that we used earlier to measure out how thick to the shoulder line. That is going to be our veneer line. Wow, that is out of whack. Well, we're going to have a gap there. Oh well. I'll show you later. So I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to use that exact same line I drew for the depth stop of the tail to create the thickness of the veneer line. Let me show you that a little closer. So I know that is very hard to see and out of focus. There we go. So now I have the line for the pin, and the thickness of the veneer in the front. The next thing I need is the depth of cut down this way. And the depth of that is more like a regular dovetail. It's determined by the thickness of the other board. So I can set up this marking gauge to be that thickness. Lock that down, check it again. That's what I want there. And then I can use this to draw that line. This is the depth of the cut. Next line I need, I know there's a lot of lines on these things, is a vertical cut line, and this way I know that my saw is running up and down. That is the most important thing about this whole line, is that it be running vertical when it's out here. So I'm going to set that in there and put my knife right in the corner of that line, set this on there, draw down to that depth stop mark. Just like that. Now we're ready to start cutting! Woohoo! And this is where the things get really confusing and people start pulling their hair out because they haven't figured out what to do. And it's really not that difficult once you've gotten used to using a handsaw and cutting to a line. If you can see the line and you can get the saw on it, you can cut to it. The problem is I don't want to cut straight down this way. I actually want to cut at this angle here. So I'm going to start back on this corner, just get a few light nicks, and I'm going to make the kerf go along this way up towards the veneer line. Once I get close there, now I'm going to start lowering my heel and coming down this line. And around here, I'm looking at both lines, making sure I'm still where I need to be. And there, I've cut a diagonal from there back to there. Do the same thing on this side. Any questions?
Yeah, hang on. Tim Cheatwood asks, are you doing a Christmas special or taking time off next week?
I do not know. I was planning on talking to my wife about that, seeing if maybe we'd do something like that. She works on Christmas, though, so we probably wouldn't do something on Christmas. Though, I don't know, I might do something fun on Christmas just myself.
Oh, come on, we gotta do like the BBC, Christmas special things.
Yes, Doctor Who Christmas special. So yeah, if any of you have any ideas, I think I might do something. I might actually just bring the kids in or do like a Q&A around the Christmas tree. I don't know.
Around the Christmas fireside chat.
Yes, a Christmas tree chat. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I would like to do that. I am still thinking about doing, although Christmas Day, it would probably be, I'd probably do like a Christmas Eve rather than a Christmas Day thing. Do it on Monday rather than Tuesday, but I don't know, we'll see.
Or maybe even Sunday.
Maybe Sunday, maybe. Yeah, you'll be home.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do something Sunday. Yeah, pay attention to the Facebook page.
Tell us your thoughts.
Okay, now here is the tricky part. The fun part that a lot of people are, there are a lot of debates on this. And there's two ideas, is that right now, you have a line, you have it from here to here, it's cut at 45. Well, it needs to be cut all the way back in, and you can't do that. So there's two options. Number one, you can get a card scraper, or they actually make, let's see, Bearcat, same guy who makes my saws, also makes it looks like a saw, except for it just has a card scraper on the end. And it's used for doing something like this, where you can just tap in. Just going to go in a little ways, drive it down, pull it out, move it in about another 1/8 inch or so. And I just usually use a card scraper the same thickness as the plate of my saw. Going a little further. And this way, you're cutting the fiber. Well, you're not really cutting the fibers. You're compressing them and pushing them out of the way. But in actuality and functionality, you're cutting the fibers, and you're basically turning this card scraper into a 90-degree corner saw. So let's take this all the way back. One more. And you want to be very careful as you get close to the end here. There is a chance of blowing out the veneer, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to do that one that way. And this one I'm just going to leave alone and show you the difference of you don't really need to use that card scraper to get out the corner. Now, it is a lot of fun to do that. I mean, I find that actually a really enjoyable task, but it's not something you have to do. So let's flip this around. Any questions while I'm resetting this?
Yes. So talking about, okay, there's been a couple of questions. So
Okay.
Lance Landis says, where's the video of Luke receiving the knife and sheath? I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, he is Luke's father-in-law. And that will be coming out Thursday.
Oh,
actually.
I should have known
Yeah,
that.
Landis.
Hi, Krista's dad.
That'll be coming out Thursday. I actually just uploaded it today, so it should go live Thursday at 11 a.m. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And Luke already has the knife, so I gave it to him. So I don't have it here to show you, but I am really happy with how that came out. So it's very cool. So now we need to actually chop this out. And this is going to feel a lot like a dovetail, except for with a normal dovetail, when I chop them out, I chop halfway through from one side, I flip the board over and I chop halfway through from the other side. I can't do that on this one. I have to chop everything out from one side. So it might seem like it's a little more difficult, but if you think through it, it's not that much more. It's just one more step of work you've got to do. So let me show you this. I know I'm not on this camera yet. I'm focusing it before switching. There we go. So just like normal, I'm going to grab my chisel, and rather than going right into the marking gauge line, I'm going to back off about 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch or so. Set it right on there and give it a good couple taps. Move it over and repeat. And this is going to get a little bit repetitive as I repeat all the way across this. But the one difference I do with this is, rather than coming in and paring out at an angle up here, because I don't need this supporting, I can actually just come down here at the end grain and pop out a piece. And you'll notice I don't have this in the hold fast. I like to actually leave it a little loose here. I find that to be easier. So now I popped out those pieces. I can go right back into that same thing and repeat. And we're going to do this all the way down, bit by bit, until we get down to the depth of the veneer. Any questions?
Yes, hang on. So going back to your strop, there was a question about using rough or smooth side. I think Devender had a question.
There are a lot of back and forth debates about that. I use both sides. I actually will put the compound on the rough side, and I'll strop with the rough side with the compound, and then I'll strop on the smooth side without any compound and use that as the very final polish. So I use both sides, although I have a couple strops where I have compound on the smooth side as well. It really doesn't make that much of a difference, other than the fact that the rough side holds the compound a little easier, and so that makes it a little easier. But everyone's going to have a different opinion, so try one and see if you like it, and then try the other and see if you like that. Hope that answers your question. Which ends up being the answer to most of the questions, is that there are 1,000 ways to do it, and there are no rights or wrongs.
Well, there's always rights.
Well, yes, there's a right way. That's my way.
No, that's my way. I'm always right.
Oh, that's right. She's always right. It says so on her T-shirt, which you can own if you go to my website and buy it. Yeah, so I mean, everyone's gonna have a different opinion about the strop, but I mean, it's the key thing is that it holds the compound better on the rough side. Though the rough side scares some people because they think it's going to hurt their blades because it's rough and it means it's coarser, but it's leather. It's not diamonds. So cool. Another question?
Yes. Troy Jacobson asked, how do you use the whole saw in your brace? I tried with a Forstner bit, but it wouldn't hold.
It has to have a hex bit. If it's round, it'll just slip. But if it is a hex bit on the shank, then it will grip it. So I have a whole set of hex bit bits, especially with the hole saws. So yes. And some braces don't like the hex bit shafts, so you have to use tapered squares. So you have to see if your brace likes them. And there really isn't a good way of doing that other than putting in one in and see if it holds. So hope that answers your question. If not, go ahead and ask again in a different way. So yeah.
I think someone asked a question about your dovetail saw. Yeah. George Dargoltz? I think it's a Bearcat dovetail saw, correct?
Ooh, she's good. Yes, made by Bearcat out in Washington. And he does fine work. Really nice stuff. And surprisingly cheap. But he has a back order line that's forever. So if you're wanting to get one, you've got to put a back order in, and it might come out in a year or two. But he does good work, and it's well worth it. What?
They're saying all these phrases that you usually...
I have a lot of Jamesisms.
Oh,
yeah, just wait until the podcast that's coming out. We're going to do some fun things. We're going to do a Christmas special.
It's cool. And I don't usually pay attention. But it'll be cool. So, can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Brad's watch. He's got a very thought-provoking question here. If you were a cheese, what cheese would you be?
5-year aged Swiss.
I knew it.
Not only is it my favorite cheese, but it's a creamy cheese, just like me. But yet still has a bit of a crystalline structure that zings you, just like me.
You didn't go for the holy?
What?
You didn't go for the holy?
Oh yes, holy, holy, holy.
Are you even a dad?
Okay, I'm going to show this. Now that we're getting close to where we are, you can see the veneer line here. We have about an 1/8 inch of a veneer line and about a 1/16 inch on this. And so I want to start being careful here. On my next stroke or two, I might go into that line. I might do 2 more strokes. But you have to be careful here. Sometimes people get overzealous. And in this chopping, let me move that up a little bit. In this chopping, they go too deep and cut off the veneer. Don't do that. Start taking lighter taps. And set in. Yeah, I'm going to do this in 2. So I'm going to do one that's really close to it. And then I'm actually going to put it in the vise and do the last one standing up. But before we do that, we're going to cut down the back line into the knife wall. So now we're really close to the knife wall. We're really close to the line here on the veneer line. Now we want to chop down to this depth stop line. So for that, I'm going to switch back over to my 1/2 inch chisel. And I'll put that right into that knife line. I could split that in half, but I'm not going to this time. Just going to eyeball the chisel being vertical. And run down to depth. Any other questions while I'm chopping this out?
Well, they're wondering if you're switching to walnut from white oak since that's made so many appearances.
Well, it's been in all the lives because I've been using this piece. It's very useful for demonstrating joints because it cuts the way you expect it to. Whereas with oak, you never know what the joint is going to do until you cut into it because it's so unpredictable. But that doesn't make it fun because you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates.
Now you know. All right. So Joseph Cardin wants to know, do you have your scroll saw up and going yet?
No, I'm working on that right now. Here, let me show you. Whoop. Whee! Everybody spin around. Here, I've got the pedals. I've got one of them made, and I've got the other one over here in order. And hopefully soon I'm going to start working on the flywheel. So we'll see about that. But yeah, still got more work to do in that. So, next thing we want to do is actually take this piece, put it back in the vise, stand it up, and focus on it. Because now we need to do all this cleanup here. On the side that we use the card scraper to go down, we actually have a really nice groove in here. And we don't have to get out too much in there. But on the side where we didn't put the card scraper down, there's a lot of junk back in that corner. And that is where a fishtail or a dovetail chisel comes in. So it's got this flare so that you can actually reach back into the corners. Oh, except I need to clean out a little bit more with this one first. It's a very delicate chisel. And so I don't want to put a lot of force on it. So I'm going to do most of my removal with this regular chisel. Just cleaning it out. And this will do everything but the very corner of the groove. Because it's flat, it won't get all the way back in there. But now I've gotten out most of that material, I can get back in there with the dovetail chisel. And this will allow me to get all the way back into that corner nice and tight. Oh, before I go any farther, I need to actually take this all the way back to the veneer line. And I need to be very careful here, because if I push it too hard, if I push it in the wrong direction, I could shave the veneer right off. And that's one of the biggest problems is the dovetail is not having the dovetail fit, but breaking this veneer piece off. Because it is such a delicate piece that most people, in their first set or two, will break this piece, often because they're coming in trimming like this, and they slip like that and jam into the back, and will actually break this off, often cracking it here. Because there isn't a lot of support here at this joint. You often see these crack lines on the outside face here. Let's do a little bit more cleaning back in the corner. I love this dovetail chisel. Such a pretty little thing.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think it says K-Clean89. Related to strapping. If you were to regularly strap your chisels while working...
Wow. That slid right down in there on first try. That's new. Well, there we go. It's done. Sorry, go on to the question. I'm going to look at this because I have a few things to adjust with.
Easily distracted.
Yeah.
All right. For strapping, if you were to regularly strap your chisels while working, would there be much of a need to regularly sharpen on diamond stones?
Nope. And in all honesty, if I catch the plane irons before they get too dull, and I just run them and strop them, they stay sharp. And usually my chisels, except for when I'm really chopping at them, my chisels I'll keep a strop on the bench, and just 30 or 40 strokes every 5 or 6 minutes, and they're brand new again. Just absolutely gorgeous. And for those of you wanting to see the strops that I made and am now selling, let me actually flip this over. These are the two variety, so you can actually get one with the logo in the top center or in the corner, because some people like one or the other. And then each of them come with a handmade piece of chrome oxide. And I'm going to be doing a video on making your own chrome oxide. And even
Chrome
thinking...
or zinc?
Chrome, not zinc.
It is chrome?
It's chrome, yeah.
Okay.
I in one of my emails, I accidentally typed zinc. It's chrome, not zinc. And I'm thinking about doing a video on making them and doing a short run because I have a tray of it's a chocolate tray, so you can actually create these chocolate molds. It looks like Han Solo and carbonite. So I'm thinking about doing stropping compound of Han Solo and carbonite. And so if anyone wants that, let me know.
Well, then you got to sell those on May 4th.
Yes, those will go on sale on May 4th.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be
If
any
we're
legal
gonna
issue
have,
of copyright
yearly
infringement.
special.
But
Oh.
So if any of you would like to see chrome oxide poured into Han Solo and carbonite, let me know. Sorry, you had a question. I'll do that before jumping back into this.
We got distracted. Hang on. Well, we got to go back to the blue dots, folks, because there's a lot of questions tonight. So
yeah, if you want your question to stand out, put a blue dot at the beginning so Sarah can see it, and that way.
All right. So Troy Jacobson had the hole saw you used on the Nutcracker nut had the tapered end, and not like the kind normally found at a hardware store.
Yeah, I actually bought these at Menards. Here's the one I have. I don't know what you're talking about with tapered hole, because it's just a regular hole saw. It's the nicer kit that these actually eject, so you can unscrew them easily. But yeah, that's my hole saw. Fairly straightforward. So let me know what you're asking about. Yeah, let's finish this up. So yeah, this slid in. It's a very, very rare thing that a dovetail slides in. It's a little more loose than I'd want, but not bad. And it just butters in there. It's not quite as deep here. I think that this board, if I remember correctly, this board actually has a different thickness. So when I made my depth of cut, I used the marking gauge to mark thickness. Yeah, this board has a tapered thickness, so it's thicker here than it is here by a 32nd of an inch, if that. So when I put it into the slot, it stands out. Now the way you fix that is that it's sticking out here, and here it's nice and flush. So all I have to do is plane this off. Actually, I'd plane it this direction onto the board, and that way I can plane this down nice and smooth at the end once it's glued on. But there is a problem on this one, and I haven't quite figured out where this came about. There is a gap here that showed up, and a rather large gap, because on this side it's nice and tight. I get a really nice line there, but this one has a fairly large gap, actually matching fairly closely to the inlaid dovetails from last time. So I'm not sure what caused that. Let me see if my marking gauge line moved. Because this is actually a really good chance to learn. Anytime you make a dovetail and you have a gap or something like that you want to learn about, figure out what you did wrong. Find out where the problem is, and then next time you can work on that. Okay, that's dead on. So that's not the problem. Let's see, what's this? There's the problem. Okay, so no, it actually just needs to be trimmed out a little bit more. So apparently this veneer thickness here is just a hair too thick. So if I take this in and trim it back a little bit, that will let that seat down in there a little farther. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah, there we go. There's the problem. Now we got a gorgeously tight line there. Nice and tight. Am I out of focus again? I think I am. Sorry. Been out of focus. So really nice and tight there. Really nice and tight there. The only thickness is that this is sticking up a little bit higher because the board is thicker here than it is here. So once I glue this together, I'll be able to plane it down. Nice smooth joint. So that is a half-blind dovetail. Once you take it step by step, and you're very careful with this veneer, because that is where most all of the problems come in half blind, is that when chiseling in, they hit this veneer in the back, and it will crack out. You often see cracks here on the face running in where this veneer has cracked. It's a sign that someone was a little overzealous on the back here, as you'll see this hairline crack right there. But take your time and be careful. Don't push past and break the veneer, and you'll be very surprised with how they come out. It's not difficult. It's just something you have to take step by step and learn the process as you go. So hope you guys like that. Let me know what questions you have, and we'll dive into those.
All right.
I'm actually really happy that I didn't take any cleanup. That is a rare thing. I mean, even for someone who does dovetails regularly, to have one that fits perfectly right off the saw does not happen that often. So don't expect that to happen. That's a new thing. Nice.
Are you chuffed with yourself?
I am very chuffed.
Sorry, we've been watching British Bake Off.
Yes. What questions we got?
Okay, hang on. Well, Jim Dockrell said, "Hey James, I just watched William's video. He said he cut his dovetails with a router. Have a word with that boy, would you?" So just an FYI there. Hang on. Joseph Carden asked, "How close are you to making a wooden clock?"
It will probably be another 6 months to a year. I have to finish the scroll saw. I got something in my mouth. I have to finish the scroll saw. I don't have to finish the scroll saw. I could do a lot with fret saw, but the scroll saw will be much simpler and easier once I get it up and running. So I'm working on getting the scroll saw. I'm hoping to have that up in a month or so, maybe 2. And then once that's done, then I'll probably start working on the clock. Do that gear by gear. And I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with that series because that will be a long one. And I'd like to do a little more detail on it and going through it step by step. What did I learn? How did I learn it? How do you go into it? So it'd be a fun one to jump into.
Sorry,
What?
I got caught up on the comments. Where James Cromwell said, "If we get Han in Carbonite, we need an image of Vader sharpening his lightsaber on a leather strap."
Yes.
All right. Hang on. I gotta go back. There was talk about your mallet and how old it is, and then there was talk about a video that you made it.
Yes, this is a split face mallet. You can actually still buy these on Amazon. When I bought this mallet at Midwest Tool Collectors, it is let's see, this one is 2 pounds. 2 pounds? Yeah, 2 pounds of steel plus then the wood faces. And so you can actually put different faces in here. It's often common to put in rawhide. I have a second one that I put in pine, so it's a little softer face. Oh! Super Chat turned on my fan!
Well,
How dare you turn on my fan?
Oh. I was like, wait.
Who is that?
Defender Coker?
Oh, it does feel good though.
I probably picture his name every time.
Where is that one? This one's turned that off now so it gets a little loud. So thank you for that.
That was a Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for turning on my appliances. I was thinking about setting up a separate camera up in the living room and having someone be able to turn on and off the Christmas tree. But I love the smart house. I have all sorts of smart junk in my house. What was I talking about? I got distracted by the fan. Scroll saw, pattern stop. I don't remember.
We were talking about mallets.
Oh yes, mallets. So yeah, you can still buy these on Amazon, and I do have the video of making and dropping the mallet on the floor.
That's the third time.
I do have a mallet on a video on turning the faces for this. So if you want to see that, making a metal mallet with wooden faces, I think was the name of the video. So you can find that on there. But yeah, it's a very useful thing. You get the thunk and the whack of a good heavy mallet, but you can adjust the softness of the heads. So I really like this one. I use it quite a bit. Especially if I really need to drive in a chisel or I'm working something that's deep down in a socket and I need some more force on it, this is what I can pull out and really drive on it. It feels more like a hammer than a mallet.
All right. Crystal Dunlow asks, any recommendations on chisels or a chisel set for a newbie?
If you are lucky for the once a year buy at Aldi, That's my main chisel still. They're my go-to chisels. They're surprisingly good. $7 for a set of 4. My secondary set is actually the set from Harbor Freight. They're wooden-handled chisels. They're not fantastic chisels, but for a beginner, you're going to have to work with chisels for a couple of years before you can tell the difference between this steel and Lee Nielsen's steel. Now, for a woodworker who's been working for a while, it becomes very obvious that this steel is nowhere near as capable. But it is surprisingly good. Yes, you're going to have to sharpen it a little bit more, but that's more chance to learn how to sharpen. So for the deal of, I think it's $10 for a set of 6, they're really good. I can't complain. Are they the best? No, their handles are annoying, but it's really not that difficult to rehandle them, which I've thought about doing a few times, and I might one of these days. So I kind of like these. But if you have some money to spend, like 40, 60 bucks, then I would go with Nerex. They're the ones that Lee Valley sells. Really, really good chisels, and I have quite a few of those as well. Especially the light colored ones that have the ring on top and bottom. You can get a set of those, I think, for 50 bucks. And those are really good chisels. The steel is phenomenal, and if you treat them right, they're chisels that will last you for the rest of your life. So it depends on if you want to spend that much or if you want to go less. Then they go up from there to hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So, yeah. But those are usually what I suggest for the first 3 of a beginner getting out there, because you will not be able to tell the difference between a good steel and an okay steel until you've been working for a while. What else we got?
So Stefan Prize. I have a number 80. I still scraper plane. Is it really vital that the blades for it are thicker than a regular hand scraper? At least to get the plane restored and started.
No. When I had this one, I actually used a piece of a handsaw. I had an old plate that was bad, so I cut out a piece and used that as the scraper blade. And it's basically the exact same thing you have with a card scraper. It doesn't have to be thicker. Now that I have access to the thicker ones, DFM Toolworks, the same company that makes the card scrapers that I sell, he also makes these scraper blades, and they're a relatively cheap price for them. And so I really like these, especially the thicker ones. They hold up really well. The big difference between a thicker blade and a thinner blade is that a thinner blade will vibrate a bit more through the cut, and so you can get a bit of chattering. Usually that's only a problem when they get dull, and so that's just a sign you've got to go sharpen it again, but sometimes it's a sign that there's interaction between the wood and the fiber, whereas a stiffer one just doesn't vibrate as easily, so they tend to be a little bit more robust. So, I mean, if you can afford a thicker one, great, go for it. But if not, then use a card scraper. They still work fine.
All right. Tim Cheatwood asks, is that the dovetail chisel from Burley Woodworks that you were using earlier?
Yes. Hey, Tim. And Tim is one that I might be going to the peach meet with. So, yes, this is the one that was made, and we did the collaboration where I made the handle and he made the steel, Damascus steel. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this thing. It's here. Show you a little close up. And so, yeah, if you want to see this, I have a video on making the handle. The handle is made out of live oak, and the steel is made out of Damascus. And I just like how they fit together. Is just the wild grain of the handle then fitting into the Damascus of the steel. So pretty. Little things like that make me happy.
Oh, now they're asking about BLO.
What about it?
Expecting you to do the joint with BLO? I don't know, folks.
Huh?
I caught behind in the chat. They're saying that you hope that you use BLO, so I don't know if they're trying to get you to.
I don't know what I use it on.
Okay, I don't know. I've been trying to catch up on questions.
What's next?
Um.
Got about 7-8 minutes left, so if you have a question you really want to get on there.
Oh, we've got a couple. Hang on.
Oh.
I just gotta find them. So, Debaka Maker says, would a back block against the veneer prevent that crack?
Yes, and there are people I've seen who will put a secondary board behind it and clamp the two boards in the vise, so when they're planing, so when they're chiseling into it, it causes the issue. And that's one of the reasons why My last couple strokes of cutting were still flat on the bench, so I'm chiseling down into the bench, so that is supported. So that is a good way to take care of it. You just want to still be careful that you don't drive the chisel all the way through the wood, which I've seen a couple people do. It's a really sad day when you suddenly see your chisel sticking out the front edge of your drawer. Oops. What else?
All right. And then they want to know what kind of clock you're thinking about making.
I want to make, the clock I'm thinking about making has hours, minutes, seconds, and it's an open gear clock. And so rather than having a regular clock face with hands, the gears rotate, and so the number that's on top is the correct one. And so you have 3 gears. You'd have the hour, the minute, and the second gear that are all rotating against each other with weights hanging down from it. So I'm playing with that idea, but I don't know, I might do something like a stick-built grandfather clock, where it's rough frame, but you can still look inside and see all the wooden gears. I don't know, I haven't decided yet.
There you go. AK Adventure says, so next we get to see the combination blind dovetail done with the inlay around it, right?
Actually, that would not be that difficult to do. That would actually be really easy because you don't have to do it on the other side, so you only have to face cut one of the 2 sides. Yeah, that would actually be really easy to do. I'm thinking about doing a full blind dovetail here soon, where the full blind, you can't see the dovetail on either side. It just looks like a miter joint, except for there's actually a dovetail inside holding the miter joint together. A bit tricky, but doable. What else we got?
Is there a video on the build out of your shop?
Yes, I have a whole series of videos on making the tool wall behind me as well as the bench. And I have a playlist, I believe it's called Shop Build, something like that. But if you look through my playlists list, you will see several videos on the shop.
All right, there you go, Matt Robin. Let's see. Aubrey Kuhn said, will you be using thin plywood for the clock or doing full pin tooth gears, since using solid wood has risks of breaking the gears / teeth along the grain?
Well, solid wood has several problems. Number 1, breaking the teeth. But number 2, and the bigger problem, is the expansion and contraction throughout the year. Unless you make them really light, the gear actually turns into an oval and an oval and an oval and an oval throughout the year. And so that kind of introduces a little bit of problematic to it. So no, I will actually be making my own plywood, which was what was originally done, or eventually done. Some of the old clockmakers would make their own plywood. And it sounds like crazy to take a board, so I'd actually end up taking a board and cutting veneers with my saw, and then rotating them 90 degrees and laminating them together and glue pressing them. So yes, that is the method that I am planning on taking. Should be rather intriguing. Some people would call it crazy, but I
just call it the normal James, right?
Yeah.
And then Alan says, does Sarah have an Amazon wish list too? Kind of.
It's got like 2 items on it, and they're less pertinent.
Sarah likes chocolate.
Yes.
Sushi. I like food.
Yes, she likes a lot of food.
It's really sad. I really like food. And books.
Yes, buy her some Kindle books.
I would need a Kindle.
Yeah.
Unless I'm getting that for Christmas and we just outed it on the show. Who knows? Don't tell the kids though. Shh, they're getting one too. Yeah, what else would I put on there? I have simple needs, practical needs.
Cool.
Anyways, going on.
I like that. Can't find the blue dot. Here's a blue book.
Yeah. Said, if you needed to drill a 3.5-inch hole that doesn't go all the way through the wood, what would you use? Or how would you do it?
A 3.5-inch, I'm guessing a 3.5-inch circular hole. If it was a 3.5-inch circular hole, I would use a hole saw. And so what I'd end up doing is with the hole saw, it has this lead screw for starting the hole and getting it going. And so I'd measure in where that lead screw would almost touch the end. And then I would back it out, take that lead bit out, and for the last 1/2 inch or so, just use the hole saw as it has the hole to frame it in place. And that would allow me to cut in the depth I need. So then I can take out the hole saw, and now I have this hole this ring that I can take a chisel to and clean it out inside. And the chisel then would get down into the depths all the way around. I think that would be the way I would do it right off the top of my head, but if the project is different than what I'm envisioning, then I might do it differently. If it were square, then I'd just take a chisel to it and chop it out. Chop down, chop and pare out, chop down, pare out, chop down, pare out. What else we got?
Let's see. How many stickers you got now?
I've got a few. Actually just put the most recent sticker picture up on Instagram, so if you want to see that. And if you want to have your sticker up on the wall, go ahead and send it to me, and I'll stick it up on the wall. If you don't know, I now have the new tool cabinet over here. Has all of the stickers on it.
Oh, that's really, I was going to say.
There we go. So, yeah. Whew, falling down. I caught that one. One more question?
Zombo killer. I don't know. I probably butchered that. No pun intended. Ever use a mesquite in a project?
Yes. I made a trophy slash medal holder for my daughter so she can display her running trophies. And that was actually a piece that was given to me by a friend when I was down in Oklahoma. And so it was a chunk of mesquite. It is very hard to come by up here. I've done a few projects with it over the years, but it is an annoying wood, but really gorgeous. And everything you touch then turns black. It's kind of a interesting wood to work with. But yeah, if you're down in like Texas, Oklahoma, it's about the only wood you have. So it's okay. Cool. Do you have one more? Or?
Yeah. Where to go? Nathaniel Stuber. Any thoughts on type of wood for a book press I need to make?
For the book press, wood. Something strong and sturdy. Yeah, pretty much any wood would work well, actually. Yeah. I probably wouldn't do much pine because it's a little bit more compressible, but it wouldn't be that much of an issue. So whatever you have on hand, I don't think there would be any wrong wood to use. I'm sure that there is the perfect wood to use. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of difference between perfect and usable. So grab whatever you got. Cool. Well, I think that will about do it. If we didn't get to your question and you really want it answered, feel free to go ahead and send it to me, and I'll see if I can get to it. But otherwise, we will be doing another live probably Sunday.
We will talk.
We'll talk. Stay tuned on Facebook. If you're on the Facebook Hive Mind group, that's where I post things most, but I'll probably be sending out a heads up on Instagram and Facebook beforehand so you can see it coming. But we'll do something fun for Christmas. Don't know what yet, but we'll think of something. So I think that'll do it. Thank you for coming along tonight. This has been a lot of fun. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye. Oh, where's my button?